Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome to Real Talk with Kasim. Real Talk with Kasim is designed to bring information and concerns of our community to the forefront. We here at Real Talk with Kasim, we respect the opinions and we value our guests. We value our leadership. We value the comments. We here at Real Talk with Kasim do not entertain gossip, nor do we entertain disrespect. We humbly ask that we all remain respectful towards one another at all times. We at Real Talk with Kasim aspire to inspire before we expire. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Peace and blessings, beloved. Peace and blessings, Queen. Peace and blessings, King. Before we start the show, it is mandatory that we start off by giving all of our energy, all of our thanks, our gratitude to the Creator for allowing and blessing us all to be able to see this day, which is a blessing, an honor, and a privilege, and to recognize this evening. For this, we are truly grateful. We are truly grateful.
To Real Talk with Kasim.
Let's push things forward.
The show that aspires to inspire before we expire.
Let's push things forward.
Peace and blessings, family. Tonight is an enriched night. As you know, this is the second episode of Real Talk with Kasim in the year 2022. We have a lot coming, and at the same time, we have a lot of blessings coming as well. We do not get that misconstrued. Also, let me say that tonight we will be talking about relationships. We will be talking about relationships / counseling. And the reason why we're talking about this, we had to add a part. We had to have added a part 2 due to the amount of individuals, the kings and queens, that were saying, you know, they were so let's say smuggled by it that we say, you know, we're gonna do a part 2 / counseling. So I reached out to some individuals whom I was deemed necessary to come on up and speak. And that being said, you know, we had Pastor Melanie Gleaves come on audio last week. She called in and she gave her information based on relationships, and that's what made everybody want to say, well, we need to do another part. And then we had Sister Sony, I'm pronouncing it right, it's Sani or Sony. She's gonna correct it. She's gonna correct me and correct us. She came in because that was the first sister when we put the information out there about relationships to even give us feedback on it. And she was so in tune with it that she was invited. And also we had brother DJ Wayne Lester, but you know, due to the circumstances, he had to take his uncle to the hospital. So we send healing. We asked the Creator to send healing upon his uncle, and we keep him in our prayers. And then I had to reach out to Yuzno, who this is my brother. You know, when it comes to these type of intellectual conversations, I always think about this particular brother, and this is the minister Abdul Haq Muhammad from the Nation of Islam. There's a young brother with an old spirit, very intellectual, and I had to bring the brother on because of his information. And we're going to give some spins to it because, like I said, you know, Pastor Mel, you know, she be on fire. So, and then we got the sister Sani from Correcting It Right. She's going to correct us anyway. She's going to, let's say, the Queen Ratliff, Miss Ratliff, right? We're going to put it like that. So without further ado, because, you know, time, we on skip people on schedules and things of that nature. So let's bring up the Queen. Let's bring up the Queen. It's Ratliff. How you doing, beloved? Peace and blessings. How you feeling, Queen?
Peace and blessings, Brother Kasim. Thank you for having me on tonight. I really appreciate it.
Sister,
in between my mommy time.
Your name. Did I pronounce it correctly?
It's not bad. It's like my name is Sonia, but it's Sony. It's Sony.
Sony. All right. I want to make sure. All right. We got it right. How's everything? Everything good with you, though, sister?
Yes, everything is good. I can't complain. You know, just moving forward, handling business one step at a time. So, you know, I'm always evolving.
And
I got a 15-month-old and a 16-year-old now.
Okay.
So
okay. And
so,
listen, sister, we appreciate you. We appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Next, we're gonna bring on a brother, the student minister, I say he's a student minister. I call him the minister. Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Walaikum salam, Brother Qasim. Thank you for having me. You know, on behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we always deeply grateful and highly honored for the privilege and the pleasure. Sister Sony, honored to make your acquaintance.
Thank you, brother.
Thank
Peace
you.
and blessings to you, Minister.
Yes, ma'am. Peace and blessings to you and your family. I pray all is well with us and our families.
Thank
That's
you.
right. And then, as you know, we got Pastor Melanie Gleaves help us welcome her to the screen as well. Peace and blessings,
Hey,
sister. How you
everybody.
feeling?
I am well. Thank you so much, guys, for having me. You know, I love you dearly, my dear cousin. But I thank God that for this opportunity to be able to share with the people from a real perspective, from life challenges and what brings me into where my life is today, and to be able to be with like-minded people and being to share and hear the other views as well. Thank you so much for having me.
And I applaud you all for taking the initiative to come. And one of the things that I do too for all those who see you see the minister for Nation of Islam here. We got a neutral sister. I call her the neutral queen here, Sister Sony. And then we got the pastor Melanie, or the Baptist, or let's say the Baptist faith. And what it is a Christian faith, right,
No.
sister? What do you say? Spiritual? Correct me.
Non-denominational.
Mm-hmm. Non-denominational. Okay. What I do is I bring them together because often at times people don't see our Muslim brothers and our non-denominational sisters and brothers together, and we do that in peace. You know, we do that in peace to show that we as a people have been divided by a system of white supremacy so much that we have to show that we can come together. We don't get that misconstrued. Under the right pretenses, under the right situation, we come together. With that being said, we're not going to take too further. We're going to go into this.
Information is free. It's what you do with it that costs. Read, study, and research. Peace.
If you just tuning in to Real Talk with Qasim, thank you for tuning in. We have Sister Sony, we have Minister Brother Abdul Haq Muhammad, and we have Pastor Melanie Gleaves here. We're going straight into relationships. Sister Sony, when you talk, when we talk about relationships, what is it that you embrace about a relationship, and what does a relationship mean to you? Let me ask you that.
That's a good question. Well, the first question that you asked me, what do I embrace the most? Well, embrace about relationships, just the companionship and the connection, you know. And when it doesn't have to be like like a partnership, like how it is with me and my partner. You know, we raise our children together. Just any relationship, you have connection, because what that person may bring to the table, you need some enlightening in your life at that moment, or you might be going through something. It's like family, you know, they help uplift you and encourage, and as well, it should be the same in return. So for me, relationships are important because you need that to even thrive in everyday life, whatever we do, whether being a business person, being a mother, being a father, whatever you're doing, you need positive connection to help you grow and get to the next level.
Pastor Mel.
Yes.
When often the word relationship comes up, the first thing that I've noticed in our episodes or broadcasts that we do, and I've seen others, is I noticed that it's filled with pain. I've noticed that. Yeah. Can you tell me why? What's your perspective of that, sister?
Well, a lot of people come and gravitate to people for different reasons. And it could be out of, and we have to be very careful of the familiarity, because a lot of times they can relate to people because what they're familiar with. And then we have a thing where we call familiar spirits. And those familiarities could be things that are good and things that are not good. And so when we come into relationships, and I know for me, you know, there was a cycle and there was a trend of what I was attracted to, but that wasn't what that's not what God had for me, but that's what I had been introduced to. And so it was a familiarity. And so when you have segments as such, and you're bringing forward different things, people can relate in some form or fashion, and some may not, but it's what's being given that draws the person to hear. And then it could strike, certain words strike different things that people thought they were healed from, or thought they were delivered from, or maybe they brushed it up underneath the rug. And so sometimes it's a trigger of when you have certain segments. But this, like this forum, this helps people to hear of different aspects that are coming, right? And some things are true, and some things people can't relate to. Sometimes people deny, but there's a wound when we enter into relationships. I find that we must know that if we are wounded or hurt, as I should say, many people don't know that they're wounded. Many people don't know that they hurting in certain areas, especially if they thought they got rid of it, or because the person isn't no more there. They feel like, okay, that's gone. And so there's a lot into when you deal with relationships and coming into it and your topics, because it brings forth the brokenhearted. It brings forward the people that have been hurt or damaged in some kind of way, or that have been going through different cycles in their life, and they don't realize that they're hurt in that manner, or that they've been doing repetitive cycles.
Pastor, Minister, Brother Abdul Haq Muhammad, what is it that you were taught about the significance of a relationship?
Well, that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan taught us that none of us can fulfill our relationships to each other until we are first properly connected to He who is the source of all our creation, which is God Himself. And He teaches us that one of the reasons that our relationships fail, that there's a lot of discontentment, dissatisfaction, is because we often try to find ourselves dependent and relying on somebody that's not our primary need. God is our primary need because we are from Him. He authored our life. But a lot of times we find ourselves trying to please someone who's not our primary, but they're really secondary. And that's where we get thrown off, I believe, as individuals.
So Minister, because often at times, like you said, there are individuals, unfortunately is the word that I'm using, if I may, unfortunately, man and woman at times be so engulfed by their feelings and emotions, and they put all of their energy into their mate and forget about the Creator. Often at times don't even know that the Creator may have brought them together, and at the same time it could have been from a negative or entity, or you want to say Shaitan or something that brought them together as well. So in that perspective, how important is it to set aside your feelings and emotions when you're going into a relationship, if I may ask? And that's for everybody. And I asked Minister Haq first, he brought that up.
Well, I think it's very important, as our sister said. A lot of times the relationships that we enter into, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan teaches us, we often use them as a pacifier. We use them as an agent to help us get over something that we really haven't gotten over because we haven't dealt with it and confronted it. They say time heals all wounds, but I just kind of never believed that. I believe that healing heals all wounds, meaning that you can't be passive in your healing, that you have to be active in your healing. You can't just think that you're going to sit and do nothing and that you're going to be healed. You have to confront that which is disturbing you, that which is troubling you. And it's not easy. It's easier said than done. It could be very difficult based on the level of trauma, based on the past relationship and what was done to you or what you have done to others. So it can be very difficult. But I think that if we think that we'll just sit back, and let time and situations and circumstances heal that which is broken, then we'll forever be broken. So it has to be something that we have to confront. We have to look at it square on, although it's difficult. we have to enter into the process of self-examination, self-analysis, and ultimately self-correction. And when we do that, then the process of healing will begin. But we have to go to a pastor, somebody that we trust, that we confide in. Don't necessarily have to be a pastor, counseling, somebody that can understand and that can give us guidance to help us overcome those past wounds and those past hurts.
Sister Sony?
I definitely agree with both ends with that, because sometimes we don't realize that. And I kind of, like we said, self-inventory. I always try to take the self-inventory in every situation, even in past relationships. I saw where I went wrong. A lot of times we're pointing the finger at the next person, like, well, the reason why this happened is because you did this. And if this wouldn't have happened, maybe I would have been here. And, it's kind of like the blaming a lot of times I'm noticing. And like I said, taking self-inventory in relationships. And it's kind of like Pastor Melanie said, and even Brother Abdul, like, it's true. Like, sometimes you get involved with a person, whatever brought you together, however you met. It could have been God's plan, or it could have been a distraction. And you're not realizing it at the time, because sometimes as women, I know I can only speak from a woman's perspective, when you taking a while to get into a relationship, and then you feel like this, oh yeah, this is it. This was meant to be. And then you start feeling like certain things are happening. And it's like, okay, why is this happening? Like, maybe I thought I was healed of that and I'm not. Or maybe I thought this person had this healed in them, and I'm noticing they got some stuff, baggage from their last relationship that they're trying to, kind of equate to what we have going on. And it's a trigger. So anything you may do that seems similar to what that previous person may have done to that specific person, is kind of like, see, this is what I went through here. And it's like, okay, you wasn't really healed of that either. And maybe I thought I was healed from maybe the way you come off and say things, maybe the mannerisms, and you're not realizing maybe certain mannerisms that person dealt with from their past. So with you, anything that you do is going to trigger something within them. So it's always going to be like discord. Nobody's on one accord. It's a constant discord in every segment of the relationship. Maybe not every, but certain aspects of the relationship when it comes to communication. And it's true. You do have to be healed within yourself, because you can't look to that next person to help heal you or get you through something that's internal, because something that's internal needs some doctorate. Like, something got to be uprooted, and you have to be honest with yourself. Why are you feeling that ill feeling within you? Why are you feeling that way? Because it's something within you that really wasn't healed, that you thought was healed. So I definitely agree. I do wholeheartedly with that.
Pastor Mel?
So that you could come a whole lot of different ways, really with that. First and foremost, as following the plan of God, what He has for you, to it really, and being in tune with that, and in that you, in your walk and in your journey through life, you experience different things, right? And you experience different relationships, for male, the female, and for the female, the male, right? And where we could realize that where there be some damages in, or where there's some dysfunctions that came, maybe from one when they were a childhood, and they didn't have their father, to be there. That's one aspect. And then when you come into relationship, if you're looking for that type of love and really not knowing what really that type of love is, you start looking for it in certain relationships that one may have. And then one could grow up with their father in the home, but have experienced different things within the home that was a dysfunction, and they begin to walk that thing of the dysfunction out. So there has to be an internal check, especially when you start realizing that you're going through a different cycle, you're going through the same cycle over and over again in that relationship. But allowing God to be the first and foremost, your first husband. I know for me, I had been through relationships, right? I didn't know. I had to learn that God was my first husband. He's my first lover. He's the first one that loved me before my parents loved me. And I had to come into a relationship with God to know my identity, where my identity lied, where I was birthed through one, given to another. So it was a lot of bloodline stuff and not bloodline stuff that made me operate in a dysfunction when I thought I was functioning. So it eluded me to have different relationships, but those relationships and those men were of the same type of cloth until I had to realize my identity and my worth. And many of us do not know our identity or our worth.
Why is it often said that in a relationship, the man is the upstanding one? Why is that? Where does this come from? And is it, how do you feel about it? Like the man is the disciplinarian of the family, where he goes out and work, brings home the money to the wife, and then the wife take care of all the bills. Where does this come from? And how do you feel about this? And the reason why I'm asking that is because often at times, because some people believe in that to the point where as if they feel like, all right, I can't be without a man. Well, no woman should be without man anyway. We feel like that's my personal perspective. But it gives, at times, it gives foolish men the ideology to think that because of that cliche, that they are the ones in the house. Like, you do what I say and this, that, and the third. And also it becomes point to even some sisters, women feel like, okay, I'm so independent that okay, you can act like that, but I don't need you on. You could get out. I can make it without you.
Well, Brother Kasim, can I say something there, brother?
Yes, sir,
because
yes, sir.
There's a saying that all history is a current event because the activities which are transpiring today were ultimately set into motion by events that were initiated at some point in the past. Therefore, nothing that ever comes stays and nothing that ever goes is lost. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have taught us that history is all about studies the most attractive and best qualified to reward our research. And when you look at the black man and woman in particular, there are cultural specific things that we as a people need because what has happened to us. Oftentimes how we socially interact is based on, what happened to us in this country. Again, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that we were robbed of the knowledge of ourselves, not for 1 year, not for 2 years, but for 300 years. And those that robbed us of the knowledge of who we are and our connection to God, they ultimately became our frame of reference in terms of how we interact. And you say, well, that was 300 years ago, but it was just passed down and it became transgenerational. So a lot of times what we think a man is not based on what God says, but it's based on what our slave master said. A lot of times what we think a woman is not based on what God said or what she should be. It's not based on what God said, but it's based on what we've seen and what was done to us. So we need to be totally re-educated as it relates to, as Sister said, our identity, which is one of the first and most important truths that must be taught to us. Not what America has made us into, but what God created us to be. So if you look at a lot of the epithets or the names that we call ourselves, it's not in line with what the Creator created for us, but it's based on, again, our rearing and our sojourn in America. So we do have to do a lot of self-reflection and a lot of self-analysis in terms of what we are and what we are supposed to be based on what our Creator said and not what this country has made us into. So even as Black men, our outlook on ourselves and our outlook on our Black women, it's not based on our own thoughts, but it's based on how we was reared and how we was trained, seeing the Black woman in the negative image, whether it was on TV, whether it was in the music, you understand? So we have a biased perspective, a skewed perspective. So we can't respect her as she is because we don't know who she is. Hell, we don't know ourselves as men. So how can we treat her properly if we are not treating ourselves properly? So we have a prayer in Islam that says, I've been greatly unjust to myself, and I do confess my faults. So a lot of us, in terms of Black people in America, we carry the implicit attitude of self-hate. And I say it's implicit because it's an attitude that sits up underneath our own conscious awareness. It guides and dictates our behavior. It's there, but we don't know it's there. So we become unconsciously incompetent, meaning we don't know that we don't know, that we are suffering from, an attitude or a belief of self-hate. So, it's so much that needs to be said on this topic as it relates to relationships, and us as a people in specific because of what was done to us. You can't talk about relationships and exclude that or negate that, because that plays a big part as it relates to our relationships, I believe.
And brother, based on what it is that you said, Sister Sonia, how important, or do you believe that counseling is necessary often at times when it comes to relationships?
I do. And one of the reasons why I can actually be transparent about this, because growing up, we had to go through counseling, honestly, because it was a lot of, dysfunction. Even though people think, okay, oh, you go to church, your mother keeps you in church. Yeah, but behind the scenes, you don't understand, like, there's mental illness in some of the families that's unspoken of, like being bipolar, things like that. Depressed, suffering rather from depression. If you're born to a mother that has been depressed, a successful woman. I love my mother to death. She worked for 42 years for the state, and she's a phenomenal woman, and she's still kicking, still praising God and all that. But she suffered from depression greatly because of some of her past issues with meeting her father at the age of 12. So some of the things that she was dealing with, she was pushing that on us. And I don't think she did it intentionally, but you did kind of mess us up in a lot of ways. So and then with my father having a drinking problem. So to me, all of that chaos and nonsense growing up, I felt like we did need counseling, and we did. We went to counseling. I feel like that really helped, to the point that I'm actually in school right now for occupational therapy to work with children with special needs or any disability. I think it's important because counseling it's like the person is neutral. So they're able to see you from a neutral standpoint that your family members or friends that you're connected to can't see within you, and can help you heal whatever needs to be healed. I think counseling is important. It helps you to be able to talk. If you weren't raised like anybody that knows my mother know, like she will, this is that. She ruled with an iron fist. So it made me feel more like I was more introverted. So when I got a chance to speak up, it's kind of not that I didn't know what to say, but it's like I'm so used to somebody speaking for me to the point that I'm just like, oh my God, am I saying the right things? Oh my God, I don't know. So little things like that, it helped me get confident with myself, because I always knew that it was something great about me. So I think counseling is definitely important. It helps you, and it helps you be able to just talk. Sometimes you just need somebody to listen to you and get off your chest. Maybe it's you making the situation out to be more than what it is. And when you talk with someone, they help you bring it down to a level where you can understand and be able to function properly with people without it being, like a bad experience. You're able to talk. So I think it's important. I definitely think counseling is important.
And if you're just tuning in, welcome to Real Talk with Qasim. We have before us Pastor Melanie Glees, we have Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad, and we have the Queen Sonia. We are speaking about relationships / counseling. Welcome to Real Talk. Pastor Mel, your perspective
on
counseling.
Counseling. Oh, counseling. I find that it's a very good tool, and it's something that people should not be ashamed of to do. And from my standpoint, I from a pastoral manner of counseling people, whether and being very transparent through life experiences. And even in doing it from a pastoral standpoint, and currently in school right now, to deal how to really learn the book knowledge of how society is viewed through I would say through a man's view, right? Because I needed to know both sides, and I find that how society is ruling cities, regions, and states, and what they depict over a denominator of what ethnicity people are. It blows my mind. Even when I was studying psychology, of how how things are viewed by the society, whether African American, Caucasian, Hispanic, the mixed communities. I really find that even when we come into a manner of counseling, people they do need an ear for someone to hear, not be opinionated, but be factual and be truthful, and to help to gear the person down the right road. And that's a manner of counseling that doesn't deal like medication wise, right? I'm not real big on the type of medication, because I really try to get to the root of it. And I think that's the blessing of when you come I guess when you come to me, because I have to deal with deliverance, because a lot of times things are not that people don't have to be medicated. No, they need deliverance because they're dealing with some really things that are generational and bloodline. And when you can pray a person through, target what it is, and allow, and you talk to the real person, because a lot of times we're dealing with the outside, and we need to deal and focus what's the real person, not what society has depicted the people to be or the person to be. So I like to deal with the real person. I think counseling is great.
Minister, do you feel, or how do you feel? I'm going to ask everybody. I want to single out the minister because I personally have a problem with this one. Is I personally feel that when it comes to black folk, black kings and queens, I feel that we should go to black counselors. So how do you all feel about a black king or queen dealing with their pain and suffering and going to a Caucasian or a white man or white woman to counseling?
Well, I believe that, my dear brother, healing is healing, and truth is truth, and there's only one truth. We may have our perspective and our interpretation of that truth, but truth is truth. And again, you can't dismiss or negate what has happened to us as a people. Mm-hmm. That always has to be looked at, and it always has to be a part of whatever it is that we're talking about, because we were treated like chattel in this country. And I'm not trying to dwell on something that doesn't have merit in terms of the conversation, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have taught us that if you don't know what was, you can't know what is, and you'll be ill prepared for what is yet to come.
That's right.
So you have to know the origin of our dysfunction in the black community. We didn't just get like this.
That's
you understand? Right. We were made like this because of how we were treated or how we was not treated. So there's a saying which says, behind every behavior, there's a need, and behind every need, there's an emotion. Behind every behavior, there's a need, and behind every need, there's an emotion. And a lot of times we just look at the behavior, but we forsake and we dismiss the need. But every human need is a human right. And what you need oftentimes dictates and determines your behavior. So a lot of times when we see the dysfunction in the black community, we didn't just get like that because God created us to be dysfunctional. But again, we are products of our environment, products of what we've been through and what we're going through, and it never was healed. After we came out of slavery, America didn't set up counseling ports so we can go and be counseled. You understand? In terms of all that we had saw and been through. So it was just passed down generation after generation after generation. My grandfather, my grandfather's father. You understand? So when you look at the dysfunction of the black community, there's a lot of child molestation. You understand? There's a lot of alcoholism. There's a lot of mitigating factors that contributes to how we socially interact in the dysfunction that we all are trying to get through. And lastly, I'll say this. We talked about healed. We put ED on it. But again, healing, it's because it's a process.
Right.
You understand? And some of us may never be fully healed. But as long as we are attentively looking at it and going through it, then we'll get better with each passing day. So I just wanted to say that I don't know I answered the question, but it kind of, you know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Pastor Mel.
I have wrote down some things. First thing I wrote down was a counselor is a relationship you building, right? So it shouldn't have a color on it, because not every denomination can, not even some black people can't relate to other black people because they didn't grow up in a certain manner of society. They can go off of what their grandmama or their mama did, but they didn't actually go through that, right? So I, as a person who has to deal, I'm not a pastor just to a black community. I'm not a pastor just to black people. I pastor whether you white, black, Chinese. It doesn't matter, because I gotta deal with the heart and the mind of what the people are going through. And then I wrote down here that we should not let our community dictate who we are. Even though so for instance, if I may say, right, our grandmother raised us or babysat us in Aspen Street projects, right? And the projects is back then is not the projects that it is today. It's a community. It was a community where all denominations, we got along. I was just speaking the other day of how we would be in the hallway, and how we took care, how our grandmothers they took care of the hallway, how they mopped the floor, how they cleaned it. They did certain things, but it's no longer of where it is today. It wasn't that back in the day, right? But that's in our roots. That's where we were, but that's not who we are. You know what I'm saying? We remember where we came from, but we don't stay there. We don't get stuck there. We're in remembrance as we're commemorating Martin Luther King for what he did, but we still not going in streets and with picket signs. We moving beyond that, although it's still a good point, but we can't get stuck there and let our communities, and not saying we learn from it. A lot of us move from here and go to there because we want a different life, right? But we remember the nuggets that were left where we were and where we were brought up and how we were brought up. But we can't live in that. We can't live in 1938 in 2022.
Sister Sonia.
So, yeah, that is a good question, because honestly, I saw somebody flash that too. I'm trying to mind my business, but I saw the flash. There's not enough black counselors and stuff. I agree with that too, because sometimes you do want somebody that can relate to you. I know I'm like that too. Like if I can try to choose somebody that's coming from my background, I would rather connect with that person, and because I feel like they could, the core of it, they can understand me just being a colored woman, even though being mixed with different Native. There's so much in our bloodline, like we can just go dig deep into that. But sometimes there aren't enough of like certain counselors. And that was one of the things that inspired me to go back for occupational therapy, because working in the school systems, I started noticing like, wow, the Jewish people have Kid Klan. I know in Passaic, they got all these occupational therapists that you really don't see a lot of African-American black, therapists, occupational therapists, just speaking of that specific, area of therapy. And our children need that. Like, why don't we have enough of these in our inner city communities? And why don't people know enough about occupational therapy? Because they think like nobody's really letting people know, or maybe people are just giving up and not realizing you can go back to school and get different grants and try to push yourself. It's one or two people to just fight for us so we can have our own. I think that's important. We got to like establish our own so we can have more of a selection too, but I do kind of agree. If you do connect with a counselor that is, connecting with you just like you're connecting with them, you know, they may be Italian, they may be Jewish, they may be Hispanic, but if they relate to you one-on-one, I think it's cool because it can help you. But it would be nice to have more of our own people doing that because it would make us, I feel like, stronger as a people too, because we are strong.
Brother Kasim, and can I just want to say something?
Brother. Go ahead.
Because again, you know, as one of our great scholars said, that if a race has no history, if it has no worthwhile tradition, it becomes a negligible factor in the thought of the world, and it stands in danger of being exterminated. So again, my sister just brought up the Jewish community, and they have an adage or a mantra that they say, never again, never again. They don't look at history as an enemy, but they look at it as a tool of empowerment, because we know that history is cyclical in nature. And those that don't learn the lessons of history, you're doomed to repeat it. So again, my sister talked about there not being enough Black counselors. See, it's not just Black counselors because it's not Black counselors. See, that's intentional, because historically in this country, Black people never trusted the Eurocentric Western way of medicine. So we always had what we call the hoodoos or root doctors. And we didn't trust them so much that we were healing ourselves, because on every plantation, there wasn't just a praise house, but there was also a hospital. And we never trusted their sterile way of dealing with us. We always had a more natural type of herbal way of dealing with illnesses and sicknesses. So we always wanted to go to our root doctors. But you know what they did? In Virginia and South Carolina, in Virginia in 1748, it was illegal for Black people to practice medicine. If you were found practicing medicine, you would be put to death. So this happened to us, where after a while, hell man, I don't want to be killed. We had to practice medicine in secret. So being under that type of scrutiny, under that type of threat, we just left it alone, man. To hell with the whole medical establishment. After a while, you did have Black men and women who worked hard to overcome it, the Charles Drews and many, but there was always an issue. So again, I'm saying that you cannot negate, when you're talking about Black people in America, what happened to us. No, we don't use history as a scapegoat, but we must use it as a guide to guide our steps, to guide our path, so we can look back in order that we can look forward. Because again, when you go to the doctor, Brother Kasim, or my dear sisters, the doctor don't just start treating you. He asks for your medical history. Was there anybody in your family that had diabetes? Anybody in your family had kidney issues? And that way it gives him a fuller picture so he can properly assess, and he knows better what to do by going off your family history as it relates to your physiological self. So again, I'm saying that when you talk about the Black community, we're not just in the condition we're in because God created us to be like this, but something was done to us. Something was done to the Black man and Black woman. Why is it that Black people in America, out of any racial ethnic group, we have the lowest as it relates to marriage? All these are pieces, all of these are mitigating factors. I'm saying that has to be looked at and assessed when you're talking about Black people in America, because we have some cultural specific issues. I said cultural specific issues that's germane to our culture. And it takes one from the culture, again, that can understand, that can possibly relate to help us better get out of it.
Welcome to Real Talk with Kasim.
Let's push things forward.
The show that aspires to inspire before we expire.
Let's push things forward.
If you're just tuning in to Real Talk with Kasim, we have a major discussion going on, and I'm excited. You know, we got the Queen Sonia, we got the Queen Pastor Melanie Gleaves, and we got the King Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad, and we're talking about relationships / counseling. And what we're doing is we're not talking about a specific relationship, meaning a relationship between a man or woman, but it's broad. It's about everything. Now, we have about 15 minutes left before the show, because one thing I've learned from Minister Abdul Haq is when you give a beginning and an ending, you got to stick to that. Right, that right, brother minister? Because the brother minister would get off the screen fast. And Mel, you don't play with it. So we're gonna stick within this time frame, right? So what we're gonna do is, for anybody, if you don't mind, if anybody want to call in and ask any of these kings and queens a question, or you want to present something to the panel or to the show, you could call 973-905-1547. That's 973-905-1547 if you would like to call in. And while we wait to see if someone will call in, I would like to ask this question as well. I truly feel that the best relationship that you're supposed to have is with yourself, right? And when I'm talking about yourself, how is it that you can please anyone? And the minister tapped on it. Unless you please yourself first, how could you dig inside? Like Mel, I can't say I love you, and I don't know about nothing about loving myself. Like, how could I? Because love has become a cliche. I love you now has become a cliche. I remember back in the day when we were growing up, and in particularly, like Mel, your moms. For those who don't know, Melanie is my cousin, and your moms used to be like, I'd never forget. I'm sure they'd be like, show me you love me. That's what she used to say to Uncle Count. Okay, I love you. Show me you love me. You know what I mean? And then I moved around. We had my Uncle Khalil said, and he's strict on this. Father, don't tell me you love me. Show me you love me. Show me. They stern on that. So now, and I'm saying that because people love drugs, they love basketballs, they love shoes, they love talks. Love isn't that high chemistry of word like it used to be. For example, wherever there's happiness, love is already embedded in it. But wherever there's love, happiness don't always exist. So when I understand that when they talk about the true love, I was being taught that the true love is the creator. Anything after that is fraudulent. It should be basically shown, not displayed, because the creator already shown us its love by when he created us. So now, what I would like to ask you all is, what do you feel about love? And is love significant in our lives as Black men and Black women in particular? If you may answer. And anyone, I don't have to call your name up.
Love your neighbor as you love yourself. You can't love the next person, really, right? If you don't know, if you can't love yourself. But understanding, as I stated before when we opened up, as for me in relationships, right? I had to get into relationship with the Father, right? And I have two fathers. So I had to know what that manner of love is. The love that God shows me. And I had to allow him to come really into my life, that I may know what love looked like, although I was shown love by my mother and my father. But there's a greater love that God gives. And when you understand that and you can identify it, then you know how to love the unlovable. You'll know how even to love your enemy when you can understand the Father's love and how much he loves you in spite of what society say, what your mama say, what your daddy say, what they didn't say. When you understand and be in true relationship with the Lord thy God, you can love the unlovable. And you can love yourself. You will love yourself. I did not love myself. Why? Because I didn't know my identity. I didn't know even understanding creation and how he created me in his likeness and in his image. I had to fall in love with God, that I knew how to love somebody. I could love everybody else, but I would negate me. I would forget about me. I could love you and help you and do this and do that, but what about me? I had to learn that.
Just wonderful. Sister Sonia?
Yes, that I definitely could relate to that with Pastor Melanie saying, like, there was a time too, like I raised in church and everything, learning how to lead, even as as a youth, you taught rather to give and give. And I think that's a beautiful thing. But then it's at a point where you're giving, and everyone's like, oh, you're so sweet, you're so kind. And I appreciate that. And I still kept that core to this day. But at the same time, it wasn't taught, okay, how do I like completely love myself, and still be given and still know when to set boundaries. So for me, it was learning how to set boundaries for myself. It wasn't even about the other person. I just started realizing where I wasn't loving myself enough too, because I wasn't setting boundaries, not purposely, but it's just, you don't realize, because you just, that if that's you naturally to give, you're going to give because you love people. I genuinely love people. I like to see people happy and flourishing, but I want that for myself too, and still be able to give, but setting boundaries. So for me, love to me is setting boundaries within yourself and still balancing and be able to give love and still remain who you are and loving yourself first.
Minister.
Yes, sir. Well, dear brother, the Bible says in the book of Hosea, in the 4th chapter, the 6th verse, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have taught us through the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan that knowledge that we are destroyed for the lack thereof is primarily the knowledge of self. He says, but how can you love yourself if you don't know yourself? He says, so first my people must be taught the knowledge of self. He said, then and only then would they be able to understand others and that which surrounds them. So my sister talked about identity. And again, we have been robbed of our complete identity for 4 centuries. So us rediscovering who we are, again, what God created us to be and not what America had made us into. See, God is the ultimate frame of reference. But those who had robbed us of the knowledge of God, then they stood in the place of God. So we begin to depend and rely on them. They became the metric or the measure of what success is, what beauty is, what, you understand, what self-esteem is, what self-worth is. So we begin to judge ourselves based on what they dictated and not what God had dictated. Because again, we have been robbed of the knowledge of God. So again, I think it's the knowledge of self. And once you know who you are as the Creator created you to be, then the more you know that, the more you'll love you, the more you'll appreciate you, the more you'll respect you, the more you'll do for you, the more you'll try to be just for you and to you. So.
An individual want to speak, so I'm going to reach out to the individual. And when we talk about relationships, when we have callers, we ask to leave your name to the side, and let's see if we can have this individual pick the phone up, because we on time. I see the time, Minister. See if they pick up.
I see the time, Minister.
Peace and blessings, beloved.
Good evening.
How you doing, sister?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Everything is going accordingly. Now, we spoke and we said that we would give you a call based upon the topic. First of all, welcome to Real Talk with Qasim.
Thank you.
How do you feel about relationships? And let me ask you this: what would you consider, or from your perspective, which is yours, how important is a relationship, or is it not important?
Well, honestly, I think it's important only if you are ready to put yourself in that position. A lot of times we feel that we're ready and we're not. And I'm going to reference to what Pastor Melanie just said. A lot of times we enter into relationships ready to love, thinking that we know how to love. But love stems from within. And if you don't know how to love yourself, it's no way that you can love anyone else.
Sister, thank you. I appreciate you, because we on this time. I'm trying to stay in the time frame. I ain't gonna let nobody know who you are now, but you already know we got you coming up on the show. So we'll discuss that. But thank you. I appreciate you, and we salute you. Peace and blessings,
I love
Queen.
all of you on the panel. Thank you.
And we all love you as well.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Peace. Thanks for the sister for answering the phone. We truly appreciate it. Now, to be exact, we got, let me see, 4 minutes now. All right.
You really don't got no time, brother Kasim, but you stretching it over.
I'm stressing over. On my time, I got 56 minutes. But brother, if you gotta go, come on, brother. You know
No. I'm just messing with you, brother.
Oh, because I was gonna have a comeback for you now. All right, now to you all. On our way out. Oh, wait a minute. No, before we go on that, this is another question that was imposed to me in my inbox. Is this: when it comes to the relationship between the male and the female, it's said that toxicity exists heavily in the relationships nowadays, and in a relationship between a man and woman, lovers. And it was more or less based on the fact of domestic violence. And I want to address this before we get off, because it's a lot of it going on, and I didn't understand. I mean, I always knew it, but the magnitude of what's going on now, especially during the time of this pandemic, is rough. And the sister said it seemed like since we was in a pandemic is what she said. I say pandemic. She said since the pandemic hit, and they were more or less stripped of going to work and more had to stay home, the more they ended up finding out that they were more far apart than they thought they were together. And she seen ways in her man that she didn't like, and when she addressed it to him, he became very physical. And I'm not saying it's just a man who becomes physical in a relationship, because the domestic violence is both ways, and domestic violence is not always physical. It's different means and forms and levels of domestic violence. It's verbal as well. So on our way out, because on our way out, I want everybody to give a word to the masses. But how do you all feel about that? Briefly, if you could do it within a matter of seconds. Because Sister Sonia, how you feel about it?
Yeah, you know what's so funny? I'm gonna be, because I can be long-winded sometimes myself. I'm a short story. Honestly, I do agree with that wholeheartedly, because I've known of couples that have gone through that, and like you said, it became a verbal thing. And these were couples that are together for years, and it seemed like everything was okay. You know, I got pregnant during the pandemic, and you know, I'm hearing people just arguing all the time, and people seem like they're breaking up. Because honestly, I think from the beginning, whether you go to work, however, you know, you move about with your partner, y'all go one way, work during the night or the day. That's a clear sign that really there's no time taken out for the both of you, maybe to go on date night and spend time, quality time with each other one-on-one, and actually talk to each other and actually like each other. That's a problem. That's being masked by just going to work and whatnot. And now we don't have to deal with each other one-on-one. So now we have to deal with each other because we're in this pandemic because of the situation. And now we finding out we button heads. Just from that's me.
So that's respected. I'm trying to stay in this timeline. Come on, Pastor Mel. You got a minute. Mel, you on mute. You on mute.
I believe that. Sorry, I believe that since we've been dealing with what we've been dealing with in throughout the nation, it has really forced families to come back together, but it has also caused for you to really see the issues that were swept under and blindsided, that you know that were not really dealt with, that should have been dealt with, and now you're being forced to deal with those things. And the toxicity did not just come; the toxicity was already there, and that's why we need to be careful when we come into a relationship and we're vulnerable. If you're in a manner of vulnerability, you should wait. You should place a halt, and before you coming into that relationship on a fast, pace. But as we are in this pandemic and people and families are being forced to be together, when they see that there's an issue and a problem, somebody has to take the upper hand and say, we need help. We need help, and to somebody to intervene so that there can be an evenness or a peace within the home. because this thing that has really disrupted a lot of families, and not seeing the root cause of it and what it was designed to do was to rob, kill, and destroy, and that we cannot allow the enemy to continue to do that. You know, and I could say a whole lot more of
Thank-
with the pandemic,
Understandable. But
but
that's a whole nother show. Everybody, hold on,
Yes.
let the minister give his, and then we're gonna have to close out. Come on,
Yes,
minister.
sir. I think, dear brother, you know, as a people, we definitely have to learn conflict resolution. You know, it is an important skill, you know, that we as a people, unfortunately, we're lacking in that area. But I think in terms of domestic violence, a lot of times what we see is displaced aggression. Because again, you have to look at all of the mitigating factors as it relates to black men and black women. You see, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told us this story, and I'll close on this. He said that the atmosphere physically exerts a certain amount of pressure on the human being. He said, and the reason that we are not crushed is because we have an internal pressure that balances the external pressure that the atmosphere puts on us. Every physical law got a spiritual counterpart. So I think the pressure that is put on black men and black women in this society, a lot of times we don't have the knowledge or we don't have the emotional stability to handle the pressure of poverty. You understand, the pressure of the trauma, our family dysfunction. So a lot of times the aggression that we feel inside, it becomes displaced, and we take it out on he or she who's closest to us, and oftentimes it's our mate. So again, I think that we have to learn conflict resolution, but the root of our problem is spiritual, and therefore it necessitates a spiritual solution. So as my sister Melanie said, I think that we really have to take an agonizing reappraisal of ourselves and our relationship with our God.
On the way out, while you there, brother minister, what is it that you would like to say to the masses?
That I love you all, and may God bless us, and may He keep us, and that may He heal us, and that if we are sick, that God will heal our infirmities, that He will bless our families, again, that He will continue to strengthen us as we go through these unperiled times.
Thank you very much, beloved. I appreciate you, minister. And as you
Pardon me, I mean perilous times. I'm sorry. Pardon me.
yes, sir, brother. And as you give your last words, you could go off on the screen if you want. I mean, because we passed the time.
Thank you,
brother,
dear
we
brother.
appreciate you. We appreciate you. Thank you, minister. Sister Sonia, come on, sister.
Yes. Oh, you want me to give some words? Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. Your word to the masses on our way out. In your conclusion.
The words to, there we go. Thank you for giving me my cue right there. The words to the masses is just everybody just I'm big on prayer. I'm big on meditation. Just try to just be as peaceful as you can. Drink some water, drink some tea. I'm big on herbal tea. When you find yourself getting upset about something that you cannot control or just anything, just drink some tea, drink anything to make yourself feel good and relax, and just try to love each other. We need to unite and just connect with each other more. Love your family more. This situation was set up, this pandemic, for a reason, but we could turn that into a positive, start businesses, and just really start connecting on a positive level with people. And many blessings, because I love everybody. Everybody that knows me, I always show love. If I see you somewhere in ShopRite, somewhere connecting, just love your family and love yourself. And thank you, Brother Kasim.
And sister, thank you for coming on the show. And I give you my word. God willing that we still alive, you will be back on our show again. Thank you very much, beloved. And you all appreciate it. Thank you, sister.
Peace and blessings. Bye, Pastor Mel.
Peace and blessings.
Bye-bye.
Well, to you as well. Pastor Mel, your conclusion, sister?
So my conclusion to everyone is, find who you are. Really find who you are, and allow God to navigate. Allow the Holy Spirit to navigate you through, especially when you realize that there's a cycle going on, and just allow God to help you. I know He helped me, and if you find that you need help, reach out for the help. Don't be prideful. Reach out for help. And if maybe somebody that knows to get in touch with someone or give you a reference, that you can go and sit and talk, and don't just choose anybody. You know, you really want to have the person that is trustworthy to hold and be confident in the conversations that you're releasing, that you're giving off, the hurts, the pains, or whatever it is. But don't bottle it up and think that things are just going to go away. No, let it out, talk about it, get the counseling, get the help. It's good for you. It's a part of your healing. It's a part of good health, so your soul can prosper.
And how could anyone get in contact with you, sister?
So they can inbox me on the Pastor Melanie Gleaves page, or you can email me at prayer, PRAYER network 2014 at gmail.com. And you can set up a session. I do them on Zoom, or we could, you know, with the pandemic and everything, some people they don't want it, but we could do it right here. And I can help you, and if I can't help you, I'll let you know. I'm not the one. And I'll try to get you to somebody that is.
And Queen, we appreciate you. And as you know, this will not be the last time that you'll be on the show, God willing, that we still have breath in our bodies. Love you. Appreciate you. And thank you very much, Queen.
You're welcome. Love you.
Love
I
you
gotta
as well.
figure out how to get off. All right.
All right, there you go. Peace and blessing to you all. Welcome to Real Talk with Kasim. It's been a magnificent show tonight. We thank you all. Let me say this. You have a right to love whom it is that you feel and you say that you want to love. But on the way to loving, nourish yourself. Breathe. Take the initiative to breathe. I challenge everyone to dig within inside yourself and pull out the resources that's needed for your survival through this journey called love. Love, often at times, is underrated. Love, often at times, is misconstrued. Love, often at times, is played with. But if you don't understand what love is really about, then you will connect yourself to the source, because the source is love. And just as the source has displayed its love for us, it is now time in 2022 that we stop saying that we love each other and start showing that we love each other. And one of the first ways that I would suggest, that this is just my suggestion, of displaying the love towards each other, is to first start respecting each other. When you see a brother or sister, king or queen, tomorrow morning, God willing that we still have within inside us the breath of life, and you pass by someone, whether they speak back to you or not, just say peace. Some of y'all say hello, say hi. Whatever it is, that terminology or wording that you use, do that. You never know what someone is going through. Speak to those who you often won't speak to. And remember, great is he, as they say, that is in me and he that is in the world. So your true essence of you is the creator within you. And if the creator is in you, it makes you great. You're not the greatest, because the creator is the greatest, but you are great. Never, ever let no one make you feel that you are less than whom you are. You have the potential to be whatever it is that you need to be, or you feel that you want to be. Just put your all into it. And I guarantee you, everything will work itself out right. Real Talk with Kasim comes on next Tuesday. We're asking you to please come on in. I'm going to give this, man, there's a setup that we're trying to take place now. It's for the first time on Real Talk with Kasim. I've been reaching out and speaking to some of these two individuals who happen to be some of the biggest bloods on the East Coast. And they're going to come and give their spill on a gang culture. And it's very important. And when I put the flyer out on this, I mean, everyone needs to come and listen to this information about this gang culture, because it's deeper than what you see on TV. With that being said, we don't understand that this pandemic exists. I humbly and respectfully ask you all to please protect yourself. And it's not so much of respecting me. Respect yourself first before you can respect me. And please wear your mask. Please wear your mask. It is imperative that you wear your mask. Be safe. Be safe. I was in the post office today, seeing individuals without their mask. I said, sister, put your mask on. And I didn't say it in a way to be negative, because one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to tell you to take the vaccine or not take the vaccine, but I will tell you to put your mask on. It is imperative. We must love each other by showing it, displaying it, but be safe. Me, myself, I contracted COVID twice. There's nothing to play with. There's nothing to play with. So please stay masked up. Wash your hands, your face, and wash your mind. Please be safe. And if there's anyone that's going through a medical situation, I humbly ask that the Creator instills healing upon you and your loved ones. And I also ask the Creator to please forgive you as well as me of our sins, known and unknown. With that being said,
1, 2,
3. Wash your hands. It just takes 20 seconds. Wash your hands. It's for your own protection. No exceptions, no objections. You'll make such a nice impression. No infection if you only wash your hands. And you're done. Scrub it up, dub, dub, dub. And you're done. Scrub it up, dub, dub, dub. Now you're done. Scrub it up, dub, dub, dub. All done. Scrub it up, scrub it up. All my people say scrub it up, dub, dub, dub. To the left, scrub it up, dub, dub, dub. To the right, scrub it up, dub, dub, dub. Okay, scrub it up one more time. Wash your hands. It just takes 20 seconds. Wash your hands. It's for your own protection. No exceptions, no objections. You'll make such a nice impression. No infection if you only wash your hands. And you're done.
remember, next Tuesday, Real Talk with Kasim, 8 to 9 p.m. That's next Tuesday, Real Talk with Kasim. Please tune in. I'll give you the date for next Tuesday. Pardon me. I should know it off the top of my head. That's January 25th. January 25th, Real Talk with Kasim from 8 to 9 p.m. Peace, light, love, and liberation.